One day you might have someone approach you. I want to help you and I want to help them. And I'm there to help people over and over. And if I help, what Zig Ziglar says, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. I'm probably butchering the quote a little bit. I live by that philosophy.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If you are enjoying this show and getting great value, we want to hear from you. Leave us an honest rating and review so we can get that feedback and keep making this show work harder for your investing goals. And if this is your first time listening, or for some reason you just haven't done it yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Adrian Smude. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button today. Adrian Smude got his start in real estate back in 2002 when he accidentally became a landlord. Now, after being evicted for being a bad tenant, Adrian purchased his first house. He realized he could live in the house for free if he split his mortgage payment amongst his friends. Now, after that first purchase, he bought a second property. This time, he learned some hard lessons, but he kept at it. And after 11 years of being a hobby landlord, he found his true passion in real estate investing. Let's welcome to the show, Adrian Smude.
Appreciate you having me here today. I'm excited about the show. We couldn't shut up before the even hit record button.
Hey, I'm excited as well, Adrian. Listen, I talked about a little bit about your background. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Yeah, so you already heard I was a bad tenant. And what that really means is my friends and I like to party, not so much the drinking side, but we had spaghetti wrestling parties, mud wrestling parties, pudding wrestling parties. All of these are inside of the house. So the moral of the story here is you don't rent to 20-year-old Adrian and his friends. But luckily, I bought the house, not that house, another house, moved my friends in, like you already mentioned, played the hobby world for a little bit. I didn't think I was a hobby landlord. I thought it was a real deal, and then I learned I was hobby. Eventually, though, I got to the niche of mobile homes. And part of that is because my second property I ever bought ended up being a short sale. I bought at the top of that last market with the ARM, adjustable rate mortgage. I was the guy they wrote about in the newspaper. You'll refinance in 2 years, quote unquote. Well, 2 years later, market's going down, price is going down, interest rates going up. I don't need to rehash what that all is. That's how I end up in mobile homes because I got scared of that happening again. It was in the back of my mind. And I've been incredibly wrong about the market for like 7 years. I thought we were at the top 7 years ago. So I started searching for something different. And that's how I found the niche of single unit mobile homes.
Man, I love your story, man. It's funny. I'm a big time like old wrestling fan. So I grew up like in the 90s, attitude era of wrestling. So as you talk about all the different types of wrestling parties you would throw at your house, I got a nice little chuckle out of that. But you went from that to, getting a home, bringing your friends in, having them pay rent, becoming kind of this hobby landlord, and then ultimately transitioning into a second home, which you rented out. And from there, you kind of learned some lessons and took some lumps, and ultimately that allowed you to transition into mobile homes. First of all, you talked about being a hobby landlord. What does that word mean to you?
It is, to me, it's someone that has a rental property, maybe three. They're making a little bit of money on this side. They don't have true systems. They're just kind of making some money and stumbling through it. And there's a lot of, my opinion, hobby landlords out there. And I'm not trying to discredit them. It's fantastic. If you have one property, your retirement is massively different when you go to retire one day. But when I became a real estate professional where I live off of this income, It's not this side money or this retirement money. I actually live off of it. I got to have processes in place. I have to have a system. I have to actually care about fair housing. A lot of hobby landlords don't even know about fair housing, or they don't comply or care. I'm not against all that, where the gray line is there. But I think that's the difference of it is I live off of this today. Back then, it was a cool thing.
I think that's really insightful for our listeners because most people may not consider themselves a hobby landlord, right? It almost feels somewhat derogatory or
Hmm.
minimalizing. But what you're getting at is it's not a professional, it's not a business. You don't have systems and processes. And a lot of people may invest in real estate because they know it's a great way to add supplemental income, to create long-term wealth, get some great tax benefits. But if you're investing in real estate as a hobby, one, you could be leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. Two, you could be signing up for a part-time job that you really didn't want to have. But three, you can't scale. You don't have the
Yeah.
skills, the systems, the processes, and you also leave yourself somewhat exposed because maybe you missed something. Maybe you missed something in the fair housing laws. Maybe you missed something with different ordinances. I used to live in Chicago, and Chicago's notorious for this. And in fact, security deposits was one thing that was always a big issue because if you didn't pay the interest on a security
Mm.
deposit, you could get flagged. And even if a tenant didn't pay you rent, you couldn't even evict them. Not only could you not evict them, you would lose. You would have to pay them like a month and a half of the security deposit. It was just crazy, right? Over like 10 cents worth of interest. So you've got to understand this. And this is what you're talking about being a hobby landlord is you actually leave yourself exposed if you're not taking it seriously in building. So you managed to do that by taking it more seriously, realizing that mobile homes was a greater opportunity. What was it about mobile home investing that made it a better opportunity for you than, say, single family houses?
It came down to here, actually, before I say that answer, I had already gone through a lot of the shiny object time that us investors have to get through. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I wouldn't have found mobile homes without it. But I'd gotten through that, found some areas that weren't for me, some areas that looked attractive, and I had some properties, so I had some experience. And my coach at the time, he's like, "What do you really want right now?" My answer was, "I want everything. I want some appreciation, depreciation. I wanted everything that we all talk about." He's like, "No, what do you want right now? Not your retirement, not in the future. What do you need this minute?" I say, "Well, it's cash flow. I really want to replace my wife's income at that time." So he's like, "Well, then why don't we just focus on only cash flow? And when you accomplish that, then we'll talk about the rest, the appreciation, the equity, the depreciation, the taxes, all these wonderful benefits." He's like, "You got a lot of time." And had already bought a little bit of, I think, two mobile homes. And I saw the cash flow difference. And he's just like, "I think you might have your answer here." So, it's kind of guiding me the right way. And so that's why I became a mobile home investor. Now, I'll quickly break it down. There's three ways to invest in mobile homes. A lot of the viewers are probably thinking mobile home parks. That's not what I do. That's where you own everything, the homes, the land, or you own just the land and you rent out the unit. So it's the multifamily world. Or you can own just the home within the park. So you're the investor, you don't own the dirt and you don't manage the park, but you own just the one unit, the aluminum box. And you pay the park owner the lot rent every month. Or where I stumbled into this niche that is still pretty hidden today, I'm in the single family world. So I own one unit. I own the home and the dirt together. These are all over the country. They've been in Alaska for a long time. So people try to say they're not around them. They're all over. And I stumbled into this niche that makes a lot of money cash flow wise, which is what I wanted. So I switched everything over to it.
You got to say that last part again, right? So I think
I,
people are familiar with it too, right? And this is great. You're talking about there are three ways to invest in mobile homes, right? One
mhm.
is through mobile home parks, owning the entire park, the dirt, right? The second way is through owning an individual unit, right? So you don't own the entire park, but you may own one mobile home within that park. And then what is this third way again?
It is a single unit, meaning the home and land. It's a real estate transaction. So I own the dirt and I own one unit. So think of your single family neighborhood. And instead of the neighborhood being built out of concrete block or wood that they built on site. They brought a mobile home in. That's the biggest difference. It also could be a neighborhood that's a mix. There's some concrete block homes, there's some wood frame homes, and then there's a mobile home or two. Those are actually my favorite neighborhoods because I have maybe a little more value. Now I do care a little more about that equity because I have the cash flow there. But I'm really a cash flow investor because cash flow is what I can eat today. We can make all the arguments about equity, and I like equity, but equity runs out at some point. You can only refinance so many times. You can only pull that out. And because I have that short sale in the back of my head, I don't like debt as much as most people.
Yeah.
I don't sleep as well. Everyone has their own thing. I like debt when you're in growth mode. I like cash flow. It's boring, quote unquote, because it's a check that comes in every month, and that makes it a lot more fun to travel when there's a check coming in without a lot of work than having this
Yeah.
big project.
And I think folks are, getting this lesson reiterated. Cash flow is king for a reason, right? And it's because cash flow allows you to hold on to the property as long as you want. Appreciation is great, equity is great, but cash flow is necessary to give you options, whether you want to travel, take that money, and you've got the lifestyle REI shirt on, right? So if you want to travel, have a great lifestyle, you need the cash flow. Appreciation and equity are phenomenal. We all want those things too, but cash flow buys us time to let the market kind of catch up to
Yeah.
whenever it is that we want to sell. I want to make sure we really are all understanding this concept of those three ways, right? So we talked about the mobile home parks. We talked about owning that mobile home unit within a mobile home park. This third way you're saying is owning the mobile home unit and the dirt, but it's not within a park. You're saying this is in regular communities. I'm driving down the street or in a community, house, mobile home, or is there jurisdiction that restricts where these can be located? Or help me understand that because I think this is a
Yeah.
new concept for a lot of people.
Yeah. I talk to investors that have been in the game for 40 years and they don't really know about this niche. So it is hidden for whatever reason. It can be exactly what you said that within a normal community. I say normal because it's not a mobile home community, quote unquote.
Right.
But it also could be out in the little more rural areas. It could be an acre, acre and a half. And a lot of people think of that. Now, you asked about the jurisdictions. That is going to be something that changes everywhere. So, around me in Central Florida, a lot of the city limits, they don't want mobile homes anymore, and they're changing it where you can't putting new one there. Why do they not want a mobile home? Well, they get a lot more property taxes on a big building than they do on this old trailer. So business wise, it makes sense for a city to not have mobile homes. Now, I can make the exact opposite argument. Well, I thought you cared about affordable housing, which is where a lot of mobile homes are, but it comes down to dollars, and so it does depend on where you're at. Some parts of the country, they don't have any zoning restrictions whatsoever. So you do have to find that out, though.
I think it's really insightful for a lot of people. And you may be listening to this and say, well, I don't really care about mobile homes. I think the bigger story here is find a niche within the asset class you do care about, right? You don't have to do it the same way everyone else is preaching to do it. Find a unique approach, for, short-term rentals, for instance. A few years back when people started getting into this Airbnb arbitrage play, it made a lot of sense for folks, right? Or if you can figure out a way to do something that maybe others are missing, that maybe lessens your risk or allows you to have a little bit more upside. I think that's really where there's opportunity. I like to say that deals aren't really made today in this climate. They're created. And that comes
Hmm.
from having a creative approach, being able to look at something and seeing something that other people don't see. And that's exactly what you've done. Talk to me about your approach, right? Because you obviously, are, these deals are Central Florida. I know you've since, moved to Denver, but what's your approach to find these assets? I mean, are you, do you have a listing that you pull up, or what's your approach like?
I have tried pretty much everything, all the marketing, the signs on the side of the road, looking straight on the MLS, mailers, postcards, door knocking. I've done almost everything. All of it can work. The change is you have to change the word house to mobile home. We have to tell people exactly what we're looking to buy. If your marketing says house and you're really looking for a 25 unit Multifamily, well, that's probably not going to work. So that works across the board. Today, what? How do I find most of my properties? It's networking. That's my personality. I like to talk to people. I like to help. So realtors are actually some of my best referral sources right now. Investors used to be a pretty good referral source. Sorry, tongue tied there. But honestly, the investors now, I've partially been teaching them how to do it, and partially they've been starving for yield. So I joke around that they finally came down to my level to invest in mobile homes. I just tell everyone what I do. If we were in Central Florida right now, where I buy, my shirt that I wear and I've become known for says, "My wife buys mobile homes." Same bright yellow shirt. I am not seen in public without that shirt on. I am like a broken record. I go to realtor events. I tell everyone what I'm looking for, and like, oh, I don't know anything about mobile homes. One day you might have someone approach you. I want to help you, and I want to help them, and I'm there to help people over and over. And if I help, what Zig Ziglar says, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. I'm probably butchering the quote a little bit. I live by that philosophy.
I love it. I love it. And as a marketing guy myself, I love the branding and the intentionality behind it. How did you come up with that, right? Because I think it's interesting that you didn't say I buy mobile homes. You said my wife buys. So I'm very curious to some of the logic and the thinking behind that.
Well, because I am a genius and I know everything about marketing. That's why. That's not true at all. Uh, I did know a decent amount of marketing because I was in event marketing before I really became a full-time investor back when I was
Were
a
you doing
hobby.
were you doing wrestling events?
I was not doing wrestling. I wish because I was a '90s wrestler, the Hulk Hogan, and although yeah, being from Tampa Bay area too, I got to see Hulk Hogan every once in a while out and about. Anyways, I made the shirt and it originally said my wife buys houses and mobile homes, and it was a little bit of an icebreaker type shirt. Back then, there was this black with white writing. It says I buy houses. Well, I like to be different, so I could not wear that shirt. I already knew at that time that women are better for marketing. I didn't have any data. I didn't know any of that. I just knew it because as a guy, I'd rather talk to a woman, and women rather talk to women. There's just they're softer and they don't have almost like there's something there's energy wise that guys we don't try to do it, but we have a little bit harder. I'll say energy wall up. So I just know that they work better. Now I understand a lot of the brand. Third person, women are better for marketing. It's I'm the person next door. That's my personality. I wouldn't be very good with a suit on right now and a big professional. And so that's why I didn't have a big professional company brand. I actually did a very small split test marketing with a friend, his very professional stuff right next to like the signs on the side of the road, 3 or 4 colors, professional brand, and mine handwritten, hard to read. We got about the same amount of calls, but no one called both. That was
Hmm.
a very small test. But I really started thinking more and I realized some people want to deal with a company and they don't trust the person next door. And some people, a company, that's too big, it's intimidating. I don't like companies. So I'm here to serve the person that wants to sit down at their table and talk for an hour, 2 hours, talk over the property problems over lunch and explain everything and build a relationship. That's who I'm here to help. The person that just wants, here's a bunch of money. I don't really help them that much. That don't talk to me. Every once in a while that happens, but I'm not that person, so I can't help them as much as I can help the person that needs to talk. Obviously, I like to talk.
Well, you're getting at being authentic, right? And figuring out your authentic voice and giving yourself the ability to connect with like-minded individuals. I mean, you mentioned on that test, your sign versus your friend's sign, getting the similar amount of phone calls, but not the same people calling. And that goes to show you that the people who called you, you're probably better suited to close those leads because they're looking for that kind of personality. They're looking to
Yeah,
talk. They want someone that's more personable versus maybe that more corporate approach. Maybe they want someone who's official and hey, we ran the analysis. Here's what we can get you on your, whatever property. but they want something that's more formal. That may also feel more of a cold transaction, which is intentional for both of them because it maybe makes it easier to negotiate. Or on the flip
Mhm.
side, maybe they don't want to negotiate and they're looking at it as, well, if this company says it's worth, X, it must be worth X. But either way, I think you're getting to the point of figuring out your voice and allowing your authentic self to come through so that when you show up, you could show up, as the person you are, as opposed to maybe feeling uncomfortable and allowing that to impact the ability to close there. I want to transition just a little bit here because I think what one thing that was interesting when we were chatting in the green room before we came on here is you don't only and exclusively invest in mobile homes, right? You are a real estate investor and you invest actively on the GP side on some deals. You also invest passively as a limited partner on some different deals. Talk to me about your overall investing philosophy.
What I have learned today works really well for me is I can do one thing really, really, really good. I can buy these single unit mobile homes, rent them out. We manage our own stuff. I don't believe most of us are good at the multitasking and doing tons and tons and tons of things. And I'm definitely not one of those. I've met a few that are good. So I make a lot of money helping people with their single unit mobile homes. And then I take some of that cash because we want to diversify, right? Like that we're always taught to diversify. I cannot or don't want to learn to diversify managing 5 or 6 different big asset classes. So I just take my money and invest it in a person that has a deal that is a different asset class, all within the real estate space. So yeah, I have some passive money in the mobile home parks. I have it in self storage world. I like the self storage probably the most because that's the most diversified away from what I do. The mobile home park is the closest. It's still a mobile home, and honestly, it's still in my same state. I would much rather that be in a different state because now we have different weather, different governments. That to me is diversification, very far away from what I'm doing. Yeah, we have some money in crypto and stock market. That doesn't excite me, and it's honestly not performing as well as the real estate. But if I have all my eggs in one basket, I'm not going to sleep as well. So I just take some of the good money I make, invest it in people I know, like, and trust that have good deals. And that's actual passive income. I mean, I have good systems in place for what I do now, but it's still not passive. It's even if I hired a property manager, it's still not passive because you have to manage the managers. If I put my money in your deal and you have a system and people in place, I just see the checks show up. I mean, I guess it's not passive because I either have to check the account or open the envelope and put the money in the. But I'm willing to do that type of work.
Well, that's as passive as it's going to get, right? Is just checking to make sure the money is there or
Yeah,
depositing it, but not having to deal with, as they like to call out, the tenants, the toilets, and
yeah.
termites. That gives you some flexibility there. I think it's really empowering to hear you say that, your focus is doing the one thing you do well, focus on that, right? And then invest passively in other things. And for you, mobile home investing, particularly the single unit mobile home investing, is what you do really well, helping other people do the same thing. But then from an investment standpoint, you diversify through self-storage investing, mobile home parks in other markets, and other asset classes. And I think for all of our listeners, think about your business in a similar way. What's the one thing you do really well where you're going to focus all of your energy actively to grow and get great at that one thing? But then what are other ways to put your money to work so that everything you own and everything you do is not solely relying on this one asset class, whether it's your day job, if you're a doctor, engineer, lawyer, whatever it is, if you've got that coming through, focus on being great at that, but put your money to work doing something different so that you can get that truly passive income. Find good operators, find people that you trust and business plans that you believe in so that you can put your money to work. And the thing I love is you're hearing real estate investors who are actively doing their own deals talk about investing passively in other deals. So, that's one of the things I love to see is, we, believe in what we're talking about. I think a lot of people maybe overlook the fact that real estate investors, a lot of real estate investors, are actively looking to invest passively, if that makes sense, actively looking to invest passively in other deals. Talk to me just a little bit more about kind of, what you look for, whether it be in a deal, an operator, like What do you look for when you are looking to invest and be more passive?
I look at the person. I honestly, it's the person before I even look at the deal. I don't care if it can be the best deal in the world, but if I don't know, like, and trust that person, I everyone I believe I have money with right now, if things went really wrong, I want that person in charge. Sometimes I like that person more than myself in charge because I believe in them so much. Like they are such a good problem solver. Everyone can do great when things are going great. I want to know, how are you going to react? What's your bad stuff? Like if you don't have anything bad, well then honestly I'm more concerned because I don't know how you're going to handle something when things go bad, because they will go bad at some point. And I look at that and so our most of our bigger deals, I'll say stuff like that, are IRRs. The right now the check comes in, doesn't excite me, but it's when they sell it, the 4-year flips, 5-year flips that got popular in the last few years. Those excite me because now I have somebody that I can put in and I'll have a big check. Now I know that they're also thinking they're just going to bring me to the next deal because they know I don't want to pay all those taxes on it, and we're probably going to be cool with that. Hey, things are going great, and then they start building even more proof. So now they're like, hey, do you have any more money? It's that small piece that you get a little piece, and then all of a sudden I'm making more money. So now I have more money to invest. Another piece I do want to add in there, though, that if we're using our IRAs, our self directed IRAs, which everyone should be, you have a much higher risk of doing it wrong if you are going to actively do something in it. So we have a lot of notes in there, but you can own real estate in it. But your chances of doing something wrong and breaking the law is pretty high. If I put that money in your deal, it's pretty low that I'm going to break the law. And I don't want to risk any of that. In the diversification, we have some active, really smart, good investors that make more money than I am paying them interest. But he wanted diversification to a different asset class. So there's sometimes diversification also helps. That's kind of what I was talking about, but he's the one that really made me understand it because I almost questioned, like, why are you lending to me at this rate? And one of the reasons was the diversification. He didn't want to have to learn a whole new asset class.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant and lots of different ways of thinking about the business. And you first of all started by talking about the person, right? Knowing the people, how well do you trust them, respect them? What's their knowledge? Are they someone who can manage, crisis? Things go bad or situation happens. Is this somebody you want to bet on and navigate through that situation? And that comes from leadership, right? Just finding the right people who can lead and navigate that. Those are the people you want to bank on, right? Whether it be, the deal's the deal, but a good operator is going to know how to navigate the landscape and protect the investors to the best of their ability, no matter what's going on in the marketplace. And that's one of the reasons it's so important to get to know different operators. Adrian, really, really appreciate kind of your guidance and your feedback there. What are you all looking at now? Like, what's next on the horizon for you and Lifestyle REI?
Within the buying world, we're just going to keep buying. I'm not a massive numbers guy. I like to buy 4 to 6 a year. So to me, it fits my lifestyle. I can still travel. I can still enjoy life. And we buy a nicer home. We sell off, maybe owner finance a not so nice home, like the one behind me on the virtual screen here. We kind of play that game now. Within the lifestyle area, I love teaching. I really love teaching. There's not many people teaching this niche. This is a passion business. So I set it up that I get to do the parts that I absolutely love. And I'm hiring people to do all of the behind the scenes. I don't want to upload. I don't want to do I mean, that's one reason I don't have a podcast, because you have a lot of work. I show up and have fun. You have to make sure it gets edited and released the right day. That people don't understand how much work is behind the scenes. I want to do it. I love helping and passing on. And I do think that if we don't pass on what we know, it's kind of a sin. We die with that information. And even if the information is already out there a different way, everyone has their own unique way to say it. And someone needs to hear it that way. Doesn't make anyone else right or wrong, but we just have to hear it sometimes the 14th, 15th time. I'm that
Yeah.
person. I have to hear it over and over. But yeah, tweak a few words. You said the word voice when it came to the marketing.
Hmm.
I usually use the word personality. I was like, oh, I really like the word voice.
Yeah.
We mean the same thing, but it's
Yeah.
just wording it a little different.
I think too, Adrian, you talked about someone maybe needing to hear the way you say it. I remember, and you mentioned the podcast. What really got me to launch this podcast, I was having this conversation at a real estate event, actually the best ever conference, the first one, and I was talking to another syndicator who I have known from his own podcast. And I was like, hey, I thought about doing a podcast, but I don't know, it feels like a lot of work, and I don't think the world needs another real estate podcast. By the way, this is like 7 or 8 years ago. So 7 or 8 years ago, I didn't think the world needed another real estate podcast. And what he said to me was pretty much what you just said. He said, the world may not need another real estate podcast, but the people closest to you, they need to hear it from you, right? It's one thing for you to
Mm.
talk about investing in real estate, diversifying your income, all the great cash flow and appreciation, depreciation, all this stuff. But most of the people in your network, it's going to go over their heads, right? But when you can put together a show, when you can highlight the best stories and examples from other experts in the field, and they can see how committed you are to this, well, now you go from talking to them about it to, really compelling them to at least learn more about this space. And that could be the difference in someone else's life. And that's why it is important for us to share this knowledge and share this information. Me on the podcast, you through your lifestyle REI, is because it can truly change someone's life. Where, yes, I've heard people talk about investing in real estate before, but it didn't connect with me because I didn't
Yeah.
either know that person, or they didn't use the right verbiage, or they didn't look like me, or they didn't have the same background, whatever it is. And that's why it's so important for us to tell our stories. And I hope, if someone's listening and they're thinking about either launching a podcast or a meetup or whatever it is, this is why it's important. And there's no such thing as too many, right? Too many podcasts, too many events. Like, if your goal is to get, 5 billion downloads, then yeah, you may be disappointed. But if your goal is to really connect and reach the people who may be impacted by your story or your message, then I think there's a lot of value in that. Adrian, with that said, and speaking of reaching people, you are the proud author of a book, How to Buy Mobile Homes. Can you quickly talk to me about that book?
Yeah, so I wrote this book partially because I like to do things people say I can't do. And all through school, I was in remedial classes. And then I found out actually while writing the book, I'm dyslexic. So writing a book was like the last thing that I ever thought, and even some of my teachers had thought. So I was like, all right, I'll prove you wrong. That was kind of like my ego portion of me writing it. But I wrote it as a give back, as a story going from the evicted tenant to enabling my wife to be able to retire and find what she really loves to do at 29 years old through that teaching about mobile homes. I wrote it to teach. I learned I like to write. I wrote more and read more writing this book than I did through all of school combined. and it's been good. It's been fun.
I love it. I love it. Well, we'll make sure we link to that as well. And I know you've got a fun giveaway for our listeners here at Multifamily Insights. You want to share a little bit more of that?
Yeah. So if you're looking at the mobile home space at all, we didn't talk about too many of the myths. There's a lot of stuff that hold people back mindset wise, like trailer trash. We can go to all the different stuff, the financing. I created a quick 14 myths debunked to upgrade the mindset. It's free if you just go to my website, lifestyle-rei.com/Casmon, all lowercase there, Casmon, and you can download it there. Maybe you decide, yeah, I like these things, I understand the myths, or you decide, you know what, these aren't for me. Both of those are great decisions because now you're closer to your niche.
I love it. Well, listen, check that out. Lifestyle-rei.com/Casmon, Casmon. Right now, we are going to transition to our round of insights. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
I'm going to go back to that short sale that I mentioned earlier. That humbled me a little bit, checked my ego, but most importantly, I wouldn't be in the niche of mobile homes if I wasn't for that failure.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
And a CRM, we're currently using Trello. They all have great pieces to it. They all have weaknesses of them, and they're all better than an Excel document. I used to run it all on Excel documents. Get some type of CRM and stick with it. You can always change it later. We have change. It's work to change, but man, it's a life changer to have one of those.
Besides your own, give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
I'm gonna go with Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, and this is always a hard question for me, but the reason I go back to that one is that has set me up to be able to consume more books and has set me up to be able to take action on the books and just to be a happier person. So I've probably implemented and benefited from what's in his book more than other books. I'm a Miracle Morning guy every single morning. I do my Miracle Morning, my version of it. So, and he just came out with his new version. I think it's like his 11-year anniversary or something. And it's fantastic. I got that book.
I love it. I love it. Well, this may dovetail from the last answer, but give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
It's definitely my Miracle Morning. It's the practices. It's some type of exercise, meditation, some visualization, incantations I do, but it's affirmations and reading of some sort. You know, every day I don't do all those perfectly, but my perfect day is about an hour and a half of that early in the morning where the world's not awake yet and no one's bothering me. And it's just when I do those things, I have better days. Better to mean productive, money, and happiness. Like they're just better days.
Give me your number one insight for mobile home investing.
Take action. And that's not just mobile home. Like learn some of it. Obviously you don't want to go in completely blind, but take action on what you learned. Too many people get stuck.
I love it. I love it. Let's lighten the mood. All right. You are in Denver, Colorado now, but you were in Central Florida. So I'll let you pick which location. May not have had enough time to figure it out in Denver yet, but give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
It is a difficult question, but I am mainly lower carb. So going out to eat can be challenging for me, but I love sushi, and that is one of the items I'm just like, that was worth every carb I ate. So any really good sushi restaurant, you know, out here, there's some really good ice cream. I think it's called Little Man's Ice Cream. And I love ice cream. That's another carb to me that I'm just like, worth it, worth every bit of it. So out here, I think it's Little Man's Ice Cream. I haven't fully been able to explore, but I love good, clean, more natural food. If once you start really eating that, you can taste the difference of a wild grass-fed animal versus something that's been and they just covered in sauce because it doesn't taste as good. So yeah.
I love it. Well, listen, you gave us some great information, Adrian. I loved hearing about your background, wrestling in your first, your first place, getting kicked out of there and evicted, and ultimately becoming more of a hobby landlord before turning into a professional landlord through mobile home investing and this niche that you found, investing in single unit mobile homes, buying the dirt and the property itself. I think it's a great opportunity for folks looking to get started and then helping us understand just a little bit more about, the branding and your commitment to giving back through education, the book. Again, if anybody wants to learn more, they can go to your website, lifestyle-rei.com/Casman, and they can download that free giveaway, 14 myths debunked on mobile home investing. Adrian, again, I want to thank you for being a great guest and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.